Welcome to the W2M Laboratory of Science and New Discovery. Tonight, we are going to answer one of wrestling's most asked questions. That question is, who and what wrestler would you bring back from the dead? Tonight, we're bringing back one of wrestling's greatest of all time. He is the one who prematurely left this world, but tonight, we bring him back to an astonishing return. With one click of the switch and a few electrifying shockwaves, we will bring him back to his once glorious position in wrestling. Here we go. The test begins. I think we see life. Just a little more juice should bring him back. We did it! He's alive! The Crippler is back! Welcome back to the world, Crippler! It is so good to have you back! You have got here just in enough time. You will get a chance to see Brock Lesnar and Goldberg face off against each other in the ring. Don't grab me! That wasn't my idea. Gary is the big Goldberg fan. Blame him. Don't stop. Paul's fault. It's Sean did it to me. Oh God, it's choking me.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Welcome, everybody, to Wrestling to the Max. I'm your host, Gary Vaughn, and this is episode 218, I believe, Sean. I've already forgotten, part 2. And here we are, guys. I am ready. I hope you are. Of course, you know, this is a special edition because we have a Hell in a Cell preview to get into. We're excited about that. We can't wait to talk about it because there's lots of things going on in that pay-per-view. Plus, we're going to get into NXT, TNA Impact Wrestling, and Lucha Underground. Some great stuff coming your way with that. Plus, a lot of big news coming out of the world of wrestling, like for the fact that Billy Corgan may not have had such a good day in court. We'll get into that. And, of course, some other signings with WWE possibly happening, and a few other things you're going to want to hear about. Trust me, lots of quirky stuff in this week's Quick Hits. You don't want to miss a minute of it. So there you go. But, man, I hope you enjoyed our intro. It was kind of crazy, I know, and some people hopefully are still with us after hearing that. But you know what? I just want to make sure my co-hosts are still happy and still here. Mr. Paul Leeser. Heyo. Mr. Sean Garmer.
What's going on?
Good. You're both still here. You both didn't run away as soon as that intro started. So, good.
Hopefully they stuck around for your Matt Hardy impression. It was glorious.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's beautiful. I know. I love Brooke Matt Hardy is one of my favorite things. So I'm glad to be mentioned in his same breath as him. But you know what? We promised the people a little bit of something on Monday, and that was to talk about some of our favorite Halloween or horror movies, whatever you want to call them. I'm a big horror fan. I love anything when it comes to that genre. We always, talk about it here and there because I am such a big fan. So I kind of mentioned that we may mention on this podcast our 3 top horror films, or maybe three movies you think people should see this Halloween. And we're doing this because our next episode next week will actually take place on Halloween. That'll be live late, very late on Halloween night, which means that most of the people listening to that episode will be listening to it on November 1st. So we're doing our Halloween stuff really tonight, to be honest with you, because of that reason. So that's why we're kind of doing it early. But, Paul, I'm going to start with you. Do you have 3 movies, horror films, things that you think people may enjoy, or something you've enjoyed in the past?
I do. I mean, 2 of them are classics. I love The Silence of the Lambs. Not only is it just a great movie, but horror-wise, it's pretty terrific. It's one of those great thriller movies. I'm a big slasher film fan. The original Halloween's probably still my favorite from way back in '78, which I can thank my dad for getting me into those. And then the last one is one of those so bad you have to watch it because it's just so funny. Maximum Overdrive, directed by Stephen King, where the main bad guy is a killer truck with a Green Goblin mask on its grill. It's glorious. It's so bad, you guys. You have to watch it. Plus, it's got Emilio Estevez.
Oh, I'm sold already.
Yeah,
I love Emilio Estevez.
So great.
I think I've seen it.
You've never seen it.
I don't know. I may have or may not. It sounds very familiar. I remember another Cars movie that they did where a car kidnapped some woman and ran around town running over people, but that doesn't sound like that one. That's a different one.
No, Maximum Overdrive, a bunch of, this comet comes across Earth, and a bunch of inanimate objects start coming to life, most of them being trucks and stuff like that, and it focuses on a bunch of people trapped inside a truck stop with these killer trucks on loose and all this stuff. And eventually Emilio Estevez and company break out rocket launchers and guns and blow everything up. It's awesome.
Jeez, I love it. Oh, I know it's definitely been on TV. So yeah, it's kind of funny. You mentioned one of the most classic horror films of all time, which is Halloween, and that's one that a lot of people really don't think about it, but that had no blood in it.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's something that people kind of forget about. They kind of just assume there's tons of blood. Nope, not in this one. The Rob Zombie version, yeah, not this version. So, but, Sean, how about you? Any movies that you think people should, go check out?
For me, I'm a big horror person, so I like to consume all different kinds of horror movies. I think Suspira or Suspira from Dario Argento is one I think everybody needs to see if you've never watched Italian horror before. That's usually the one that I think people kind of know by name, other than Zombie. You definitely should see it. It's one of those things that you watch it and you go, oh my god, I feel like I'm entering a different dimension of what I think horror is after I watch it. It's absolutely amazing for just the artistic and just for the horror that it has in it as well. I'm still a big fan of Psycho. I know it's old and people, and I think Bates Motel's done a great job turning it into a TV show and everything, but I'm still a big fan of that movie. I'm a huge Alfred Hitchcock person. A lot of his movies I think some of them get more overrated than they actually are. But, the ones that are classic, I think, still stand that test of time or whatever, and Psycho is one of them. And I think the other one that it still kind of sometimes scares me, and it was the one that scared me the most when I was a kid, is the first Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger. That whole of somebody attacking you in your dreams, and then you dying in them is that's still, scary. It's still frightening. I don't really have bad dreams anymore as an adult, but it's still something you can watch and you can identify with that, And not to mention that Freddy Krueger is still an amazing villain just till this day.
Yeah, one of the most iconic of all time. I mean, people are still dressing up as him, and the 80s was quite a while ago, people. So it just shows you how much of an impact he's had on our culture in general. Suspira, like Sean said, I love it. I love Italian horror films. That's a big one too. So those are some great choices. And for me, I'll throw another Italian horror film out there. Zombie. Sean mentioned it. It's a Fulci movie. I think this one's really, really cool. I know it's kind of corny. It's very campy, slow at times, but it's hilarious and it's very, very graphic. And I'm very much into the graphic gore and horror movie, just disgusting things like Walking Dead presents an American Horror Story on television as well. So I think people, if you haven't seen it, it's, a film that's 1979. It's kind of older. but it's definitely worth a chance to see, and it's one that will probably freak people out if they don't like horror films. It'll really freak them out. Another one I want to mention is one that's very campy as well. I'm sorry, I love campy horror films. Sleepaway Camp, 1983.
Oh, it's a great movie, Gary.
Yes.
The year I was born. It was a big time movie, very scary to a lot of people. This was another camp movie, which is kind of big in the 80s. Think about it, Friday the 13th and all. But this one's from a different point of view, and it is terrifying visually and just mentally. And of course, they did a remake later on, so the remake's kind of fun too. But actually not a remake; it's a sequel way down the line. But let's go ahead and get my last one in. And this is actually a newer movie. You may not have heard of it. I think it may still be on Netflix. I didn't search for it, but I did watch it on Netflix. And that is You're Next. No, it has nothing to do with Goldberg. Trust me. It's just You're Next. Very, very gory at times. Very psychological. It's a murder mystery. So this is a good way to trick your girlfriend. She's like, oh, I love murder mysteries. Get this movie on Halloween. She will be freaked out, but she may get interested in the storyline because it is very much an interesting murder mystery. So, those are a few movies from my end. If you really want to get crazy, Paul, I think people should check out this movie Rubber.
Oh, Rubber's a great movie.
And Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So
another one of those so bad it's good movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Those are just terrible but awesome. So these are a few movies that we wanted to throw out for everybody. Maybe these are some that you can hit up on Netflix. Maybe you can rent them through Netflix or maybe some other device. I know people find movies online too. So do that. Go check those out. Of course, my favorite of all time is Friday the 13th. I love Jason Voorhees. That's another great favorite. So I hope everybody enjoys those. I hope everybody has, of course, a good Halloween and has a fun, because if you're not, with kids or anything, you got to find something to do. So there you go. Well, that pretty much concludes that. I know we've got a lot to do. So the first thing we're going to do on this show is talk Hell in a Cell. We're going to kind of break that down. And later on, we are going to get into some big news topics. We also have the WB financials to talk about. So we'll get into all that and more. But let's go ahead and start this thing off right. Let's talk Hell in a Cell.
Let's do it.
Do you have music?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We usually have music, so I was kind of pausing for our music. So let's go ahead and start this thing off right, and let's go ahead and talk about the kickoff match just because it's kind of the first thing. We got Cedric Alexander. We also have Lince Dorado and, of course, Sin Cara facing off against Tony Nese, Drew Gulak, and Daivari. Araya Daivari, I guess is how you say it. I'm never good at his name. But this is going to be, a fun-filled match. I think it's a good way if you're going to do a kickoff match, something that's, lots of flippies, lots of fun. Who do you got in this?
Yeah, I think this will be a lot of fun. I'm going to go with the Nese Gulak Daivari team, mostly because I think Tony Nese is being groomed. Both him and Rich Swann are sort of being groomed as the next challengers for TJP. So I'm going to go with those guys.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the heel team here. I mean, this should be a fun match. Hopefully they give it some time. But yeah, heel team should win.
You know what? I'll just go crazy. I'll go face team. I think that it'll be fun. I think it's exciting. And, I know it really doesn't matter at the end of the day, but it'll be a lot of fun to check out. So just want to throw that out there to people. Let's get into another match that'll be on this card, and that is going to be Bayley facing off against Dana Brooke. Now, this is a feud that, has been there, not really highlighted, well, for the main reason of that big women's Hell in a Cell match being the big point of view when it comes to that division. So this will be an interesting kind of filler match. What do you got here? Who do you think is going to go over?
Go ahead, John.
I don't know. They've had Dana doing too much pestering Bayley and all that. I don't know if they're going to have them continue this feud. I'm sure they'll find ways to do it because they'll probably be part of the Raw team on the Survivor Series. But I think Bayley wins here.
Yeah, I think you go with Bayley here too. No matter who comes out with the women's title later on in the evening, I think Bayley's sort of being set up to be next. Although we haven't heard from Nia Jax in a while either. I wouldn't be surprised if she comes out of nowhere to attack at the end of that match or something like that.
Yeah, that would be kind of interesting. We haven't seen her around, and so that would be a kind of a cool way to conclude that match. You know, I really don't know how far they want to take this. And saying that, I'm going to go Bayley. I think that, she's, still getting people on her side, if I can say it that way. I don't think maybe a lot of the fans still feel like they know her, especially if you didn't watch NXT. And so I think she could have a good match here and try to get herself over some more. I don't know if it really helps for Dana Brooke to win. It may. I don't know. But I'm going to Bayley. Another match here that's going to be really interesting is, we're going to have Enzo and Cass face off against Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. And this is one that I think a lot of people are going to choose Enzo and Cass just because they've, pretty much made Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows look bad at times. But I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Gallows and Anderson. It may not make a lot of sense, but I feel like they need to get something going. They got to have some momentum in the right way, even though they are the heel teams. I'm going with them, Paul.
I keep picking them to win matches and expecting WWE to finally do something with them, but it never happens. It hasn't happened the last 2 or 3 months that they've been presenting Gallows and Anderson in this manner. So I'm going to go Enzo and Big Cass, just simply because I have zero faith in WWE doing anything with Gallows and Anderson anymore at this point.
What do you think, Sean?
I'm just going to go on hope here, and by hope I mean that Gallows and Anderson win. Because really, if we're going to keep having them lose, what is the point of them being in the company?
I don't think WWE knows anymore. I really don't.
They just slid him in that category of, here's Dolph Ziggler, and here's another group of guys that we're just going to put over here, and we don't know. We'll figure it out later. So, and they'll probably get there sometimes, but I think a lot of times they will be lost. But Sean, there's another tag team match that is on this card, and that is, of course, one for the championship belts, and that is the New Day defending their titles against some guys we know very well, but not as a team, and that is Cesaro and Sheamus. Who do you feel like is going to come out of this victorious?
I feel like we're not even going to be coming in question of whether New Day wins or not until we get much closer to them breaking the demolition record. So until that happens, I think it's no doubt that New Day wins here. And I don't know if you keep Cesaro and Sheamus together some more somehow, or you already, disband this or whatever that they do with it here. But I think New Day are winning.
I don't know if this is a no-doubter. But I also don't know what they've been doing really with Cesaro and Sheamus since they sort of called the Best of 7 series off and all that stuff. This sort of seems like dilly-dallying with two guys who they didn't know what to do with and didn't feel like putting them in the main event scene. So they put them here. I think the New Day do come out of this. I don't know if this reignites a feud between Cesaro and Sheamus, or maybe they just start bickering again, or maybe they find their way. Who knows? But ultimately, the New Day will come out of this with the straps. I don't know if it's a lock, because I could see WWE being wishy-washy and go, oh, let's put on Cesaro and Sheamus for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right on that. That could be the case, and I look at this as the record matters, and I also look at the fact that really it's going to be kind of a comedy show if Cesaro and Sheamus win those tag titles, because it's going to be them not getting along and then them saying, well, we're champions. And I think they're going to eventually be happy as a tag team, but I don't think it's this early, and I don't think it's this way. So I think New Day do retain their belts, and I think that they will go on and, get onto that next feud, get onto that next thing that they're going to be having to do, and see what happens. The Cruiserweight Classic Champion, TJ Perkins, and he is the Cruiserweight Champ, of course, over there on NXT when he performs over there, too. It's kind of funny. TJ Perkins is going to face off against Brian Kendrick. And this is one that I think a lot of people are kind of interested in. I got a little less interested after Brian Kendrick kind of complained and begged for the title for free. But anyway, enough of that, Paul. Who do you think's going over here?
This has got to be TJ Perkins retaining the title. I don't see a reason why you would move it to Brian Kendrick unless, you get in the same sort of thinking of, why you would put the tag titles on Cesaro and Sheamus just because. But like I said, I think they have other ideas for TJP after this. So I hope this gets a nice big blow-off match. I hope they really get to cut loose because I don't think the Cruiserweights have really been given an opportunity to do so since they've been brought up to Raw.
I agree with what Paul said here. You really got to give the Cruiserweights opportunity to shine here, give them opportunities to the fans to really get behind them, and the only way you're going to do that is to give them an opportunity to come out and do what they do best. And that's go out there, perform, and hopefully, TJP gets a good win and we move on and give them a different story here. And can we please stop with the video game references, for God's sake?
Yeah, I would love that. I'm going to go Brian Kendrick here. And even if it's nefarious ways or I don't care. What I do care about is I think it's going to be very interesting to see Brian Kendrick holding that Cruiserweight Championship belt, holding it hostage. And, I think eventually TJ Perkins will have to step aside after he, of course, gets his rematch. And I think it'll be a lot of fun seeing those Cruiserweights go through Brian Kendrick to get the belt. And I think, TJ Perkins is going to hold his own without the title. So I think that could be a lot of fun. I love heel Brian Kendrick. It works. Let's talk about what could be the main event or what Hell in a Cell match, which we're going to start all three of these. Roman Reigns and Rusev. And I say it jokingly because Roman Reigns, they would probably want to get over by putting him in the main event, but they really don't need the U.S. title there. What do you think about this, Sean? I mean, do you think Rusev or Roman Reigns? Who do you feel?
Oh, you don't give Roman Reigns a championship just to have him lose it the next month or whatever. This is the golden child. He's got to have a title for a while. I just don't. Why would you take it off from him? Just to what? You're gonna put him in the main event again? It's obviously not a thing you need to be doing right now. Let him get some steam where he's at. I'm gonna keep going with that phrasing until I see it happening. So no, and this is just the blow off. Finally we get the end of the Rusev thing, and Roman Reigns moves on to something else.
What if this isn't the blow off though, Sean? Like this feels like it's never going to end.
Why'd you have to say that, Paul? Why?
Because look at the company we're talking about, man. Like this has gone on 2 months longer than it should have, and there's no end in sight. There's no logic. There's no interest. There's no anything. This is going to be terrible to sit through. And I'm thinking, God, I get to watch this after it's aired live, so I can maybe fast forward through parts of this. But there's no reason for Reigns to lose the belt here, so he'll retain and hopefully what is a brief encounter inside Hell in a Cell.
Oh, so Paul's going to watch this just like I am on fast forward. Yeah, Roman Reigns. There's no doubt. That's the one match on this card. I feel like no doubt in my mind at all. But I think it could be a halfway decent match. I really do. It's not knocking the guys themselves. It's just knocking the thought process that they have with Roman Reigns and, of course, this title. I don't know. I feel bad for Rusev. I'm just going to say that. I just really, really feel bad for Rusev. The other Hell in a Cell match, though, that we're going to have Kevin Owens face off against Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. And I am going to go with Kevin Owens. I know there's a lot of thought processes going around. Seth Rollins is is, babyface, and this is opportunity. I think Kevin Owens is going to stretch it out a little longer. But how do you feel, Sean?
Oh, definitely. Look, they could go back to Rollins here. I don't think that's a total slam dunk. But there's a story here brewing with Jericho and Owens, and maybe you give Jericho one last shot at a major championship before he goes off to do something with Fozzy or whatever. They've done this really well. Somehow the crowd has absolutely loved the thing with the list. And I just feel like it's going somewhere. Like, I just don't think this is just a whatever feud. You gotta have a thing with Owens and Jericho kind of being enemies after being friends.
Yeah, I mean, your longest reigning Universal Champion in history, Kevin Owens. He's got a thing brewing with Jericho. There's the list there. I don't know how that's worked, but it somehow has. I honest to God would not be surprised if Jericho ends up accidentally costing Owens the championship here. It goes to Rollins. But I think Jericho right now is still in the business of putting guys over, and I don't think there's a better way to put Kevin Owens over than having him defend that Universal title against him down the road. So maybe Jericho botches it up, but Kevin comes out okay, and then you have problems going into Raw. But hook or crook, it's Kevin Owens walking out with that title.
And, we, of course, saved the women's Hell in a Cell for last. And the main reason I did that is because at least somewhere they may actually get this. I don't know. I know that Vince McMahon is kind of fighting tooth and nail to make sure that doesn't happen. But, we still have that optimism. We still have the opportunity for Charlotte and Sasha Banks to be the real main eventers here, and the women's title being up for grabs in a Hell in a Cell match. This is the first of its kind, Paul. How do you feel about it, and who do you got going to be the winner?
I've been a fan of women's wrestling for a very long time. I've been a big proponent of WWE actually trying to create a women's division now that we finally have one, and they're getting this opportunity. I'm very excited. That being said, the build for this could have been so much better. And, granted, this feud may have gone on a little longer than it needed to at times. But I think ultimately what you still have, this and Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins are your two most interesting matches on this card, bar none. Even if you haven't been a fan of the build, I think this match is going to be terrific. I really think these girls are going to go out there, give it everything they got. And we know what they can do with each other whenever they're doing that. I think when you put them on this stage and in this kind of match, they're really going to show you what they got. So I see no reason for Sasha to lose it, especially in Boston, which I believe is her hometown, if I remember correctly. And if this main event's her holding up that belt at the end of the show, is going to be one heck of a pop. So for me, I hope they do get to main event.
Yeah. I mean, so I think Dave Meltzer brings up a good point in his Observer this week. If WWE really would have said, okay, we really want to make this historical, we really want to make this a big deal, why not go ahead and name it the main event immediately? Why not go ahead and say, look, you're not only going to be first time Hell in a Cell ever for the women, this is going to be the first time women are main eventing a pay-per-view or whatever. Now, you can have the thing is, you can have two first times here, and maybe you save the first time main eventing a pay-per-view for something else, since you seem to be very wishy-washy about whether you want it to be the last match on the show or not. I know network specials don't matter and all this stuff, whatever, but, wouldn't you want it to be like, I don't know, maybe they could main event a SummerSlam one day, or main event a WrestleMania one day, and that really is that first time, instead of you're doing it at Hell in a Cell after we don't know if, it's a triple main event really, and really we're trying to tell you that all three of these are the main event, and it doesn't matter which one goes on last, and whatever. I feel like that's what the announcers are going to spin it the whole time, and then is it really going to matter as much if we get that spin the entire freaking night, Wouldn't you want it to be a moment where everybody knows it's the main event, they've told you it's the main event for a whole month, and you go in this interview and you're ready for this main event?
Yeah, I think so. And that's something, it is a good point. I really feel like that they really would have done that if it was going to be the biggest part of the show. And that's what makes me really question if it is. I think that they wanted to hit that milestone, but I don't know to what level they were willing to promote it or what level they actually had in mind. I think that this was a good idea, but I'm not sure that WBE at first thought it was a good idea because it's kind of obvious they didn't do that, Sean. That's why I kind of have my reservations.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, the way that they did the build, the way that they did, as Paul talked about, just the way that they did a lot of things for this seemed very unsure. Mick Foley seemed very sure, and then all of a sudden, oh, whoops, sorry, I screwed up. It's just like, and then it's like, oh, wait, now we can't go totally back on us, we gotta say triple main event. And it's like, oh, give me a break. Like, why? I mean, come on, Vince. Like, are you really that stuck in the Stone Age? Like, the women are doing great things now, and women are doing great things all over the world now. Like, I mean, geez, get over yourself, man. I just, it's just, it bothers me. I think Sasha wins here too. There's no reason why she needs to lose it. I really don't want to see her have another 1 month title reign. That doesn't make sense. If you're really going to go with her, go with her, And if anything, you need to have her beat Charlotte's streak of not losing at pay-per-views. So to really show that she's beaten Charlotte.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I'm picking Sasha Banks as well. I just think it's too quick of a turnaround. I think also this is going to be, I think very violent at times, and I think they're going to try to show that they can do this. They can hang with the big boys, and they're going to go through a lot of hell, and they really are going to put their bodies through a lot to do it. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to make a lot of sense for Sasha Banks to come out on top, even if she has to do some things that maybe she shouldn't. That way she can just prove her point that it was in her, wheelhouse that she could do these type of things and still win. So I'm looking forward to this. I think this pay-per-view will be very interesting. I think that they have some good matches that they've put on this card, and I think a lot of people will be checking it out, and I think we'll probably be impressed. Now that I say that, it'll probably be terrible, and I'll come on here and be giving it a 3, but we'll see. I'm very optimistic. I hope you guys are too. That's our Hell in a Cell preview, and if you want to actually hear us talk about it, we are geared to do it Sunday night. Now, this may be very late. We're still trying to work things out. I know Paul will be working during the pay-per-view, and he'll get home later. I will be with my wife during the actual pay-per-view, and we're going to be out of town technically, so I'll be getting back in town. Our goal is, though, for Monday morning when you wake up, for you to hear a review of Hell in a Cell. So check us out. We always talk about it. Go subscribe to the W2M Network. If you do that, you'll see it in your docket. When you're on your way to work, you can listen. Of course, on your lunch break, you can listen to that Hell in a Cell review. And it'll be kind of cool for you to have a chance to hear somebody else talk about it if no one at work is getting into it a lot. So that's what we're going to plan on doing. Keep updated with us on the W2M Facebook group. And, of course, check out W2Mnet.com, which you'll also find that review as well. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into some quick hits, guys. We've got a lot to get into, so we'll do that next.
Let's see. Hold on.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
Alrighty, let's talk about some big news when it comes to Billy Corgan. And, we all heard about the lawsuit that Billy Corgan put against TNA. And they, of course, had that debt paid by the Fight Network. And so still, Billy Corgan had a court case, and they actually had, the whole thing go down. And what we're looking at now, and I'm just summarizing this because there's a lot into this, and I think Paul and Sean will probably elaborate more on the details, but I'm just going to give you the heads up what happened here. And that's the fact that it comes out that Billy Corgan may not have had as big of a shot of winning this lawsuit as once thought. So let's get into this, guys. I know, Sean, I know you kind of read a lot about this and you were kind of following along with it. I know someone was actually live tweeting this court case, minute by minute, even went up to recess talking about it. So can I give us some more details about this?
Well, Paul probably knows just as much as I do. I read through the live tweets, but that was, days ago. So I don't remember everything here, but basically Billy Corgan he claims a $1.8 million loan, which would be pretty much, I think, what the half the company's worth at this point. And he made a loan which, if TNA did not pay it back, or Dixie didn't pay it back, that's still unclear. That's kind of part of what's being argued in the case as to who he actually lent the money to. But he lent the money in a way where he would become TNA president if they didn't pay him back. He could try to get controlling interest in TNA if they didn't pay him back, because Dixie has, 92% of TNA. And the thing is, she can't even, because of the way Tennessee law is set up, she can't even transfer her managerial rights, even if she wanted to, because of how the law is set up. So Billy Corgan kind of might be stuck in a pickle, and it might be worse than just, I lose out on this case or whatever. This could be a big ordeal for Billy Corgan and backfire on him really bad.
Right. And from a lot of what there's a guy who was live tweeting the court case as it was happening, and I believe this was Tuesday, if I remember correctly. And I told Sean the Twitter handle, and I'm forgetting the name already, but you can find it all on there.
He writes for the Tennessean.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's a legit reporter and everything. Just he happened to be at court that day, and he was. I'll get to the name in a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he decided to live tweet it, which is very cool of him, especially following along with everything there. There's a lot of really interesting things that are presented on both sides. For example, I know the big one that he highlighted was that TNA had been, quote-unquote, put on life support, and that's the term they used for them scrambling around for parties to invest in them so they could keep on running with TV tapings or with pay-per-views a total of 5 times so far. And 3 of those were bailed out by Billy Corgan and his loans. And the other 2, of course, I think have been much more well-known with Erich and the Fight Network sort of stepping in. So you have those, which I found very interesting. Honestly, what this boils down to, I think, is where exactly did the money go and how was it given? If Corgan loaned the money to the company Impact Ventures that owns TNA, then I don't see a lot of hope for him. If he loaned it personally to Dixie, there's a lot more wiggle room in there, because now you have to look at contracts and you have to look at a bunch of other things going towards whatever, personal loans and all this other stuff. This is going to get very messy. I imagine it's not going to be very clear. And even I think if TNA wins this court battle, there's so much against them already. Plus now you're stacking legal fees, and if Billy can drag this out, TNA might just die that way, and he can sort of step in and pick up the ashes if he wants to, Because if they have to declare bankruptcy, then he can still get them that way. And he might just be out all that money and whatever, but I'm sure he will consider that a acceptable loss if he ends up in charge of the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah. This is another thing too. Is this supposedly there's a thing in here where Corgan claims that there was a WWE offer and that Dixie was trying to sell WWE or sell TNA to WWE, but that they couldn't until Billy Corgan was out, and that the offer was apparently like $6 million or something like that. But WWE's apparently lowered the offer at this point. He's upset about that, and this is just like Paul said, it's crazy. I can't believe we're still having to talk about this. I just hope that they resolve this and it's whatever. I wouldn't be surprised though if we hear about TNA having to clear bankruptcy regardless though.
Does TNA live to see 2017?
Well, they did cancel Total Nonstop Deletion. So, that sucks.
Yeah, that does suck. That's a big bummer. But, it's so hard. I mean, Paul, you say it week in and week out when we talk TNA. How many times have been noted as being dead? There's no way they can continue any further. They're dead. And they do. They keep going. And, we talked Monday about them being the cockroaches. And I think they're around in 2017, but I would not say very long into 2017. I would venture to say by February or even April, somewhere in that time frame, in the middle between somewhere. We're talking the end of days. And I'm not talking about, the move. The finisher.
Yeah. I thought maybe you were talking about the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
I did first think of that, but then I thought, wait a minute, there's something else here with this. No, I better not say it. But it may be very reminiscent of that
then
movie
they would be
within that Nashville.
They would be proclaiming that, they will be back at some point. So.
Yeah. Oh boy, has a different name maybe.
If Corgan has his way, then yes.
Yeah, exactly. And this may not be going the way Corgan wanted this exact lawsuit and all that. But at the end of the day, I don't think any of this matters. I don't even think what TNA does on their shows is really going to matter. I think what we're seeing here is just a floundering until they finally do close their doors, and then eventually we'll see something else pop up with the TNA superstars, and it'll just be a new thing. It's just taking a long time to do it. I think it'll take. I was just thinking about this. What do you think? I mean, WCW. It took them a little while before they finally met their end. And, of course, the Monday Night Wars and even a little bit following, they still had some success, but their numbers started slowly dripping and dumping in. Really, it was the network that no longer wanted them, and not really the fact that their company was run it was run terribly. I can't say that too, but really just it was the fact that the money train ended, and they were just gave up on, whereas TNA is not given up on, they just don't have a shot because they can't pay for it. How long do you think this lasts? Has this lasted longer than WCW? I'm just trying to think of the time frame in my head.
Yes, it has. I think that point was made, I think like last year, was that they haven't lasted as long as the NWA smashed together with WCW, but WCW by itself, yes.
Wow. It is crazy. And WCW is in all sorts of trouble. So, I mean, this is, like I said, the kind of the cockroaches. The nuclear holocaust could happen, and they're still around. I could see it now. The last thing standing on planet Earth after a global nuclear war is the TNA logo. So,
I would not be shocked in the least if that's true. I really wouldn't. It's
just a warehouse deal.
Cockroach form of Dixie Carter still running that company.
God.
The only thing standing up in this world would be the warehouse. Yeah.
The warehouse. Yeah.
Still around.
Where all the production.
The one bunker that ever went. Yeah, the only production people lived. Oh my God. Let's get into some other interesting news, guys. I mean, we could continue on and on about TNA, but I think people are kind of TNA'd out a little bit. Let's get into some other things that could be very, very interesting. And one of those things happens to be what's going on with WB and them offering more people contracts. Well, there's two young ladies that have actually been offered contracts. And they are, of course, very interesting because I have never heard of them. Now, Paul will probably give us an in-depth on who they are because, once again, these are some names that I have never once ever heard in my life. But we'll start with the first one. Let's see if I get it right. Shirai and Kairi Hojo.
Actually, pretty close.
I tried.
Io, Shirai, and Kairi Hojo. You're right. They're both from Stardom. Stardom is sort of stepped forward as the premier Joshi promotion over in Japan. Shirai has she used to run with Kana, obviously in Triple Tails. If you're into the Joshi scene at all, not only in Stardom and in other promotions as well, but whenever Tajiri was still running Smash and Wrestling New Classic, they were in there as well. And she's sort of in the wake of her sister retiring and Kana becoming Asuka and dominating NXT as she has. She's sort of stepped up and become certainly one of the best, if not the best, Joshi wrestler over in Japan. And Kairi Hojo is essentially Stardom's number 2, right behind her. And from everything I've read, Sean, it seems like Io is ready to go, and Kairi is sort of back and forth on whether she's going to do this or not.
Yeah, I mean, they're both, I think Kairi's kind of feeling like, well, I mean, I owe a lot to Stardom, and it's going to hurt Stardom a lot to lose, their top 2 talents. And obviously, Mayu would be number 1 immediately, and then you kind of have everybody else behind her after that. Look, if you never watched Io Shirai, you're missing out. She is, to me, and I'm going to be honest, I don't watch a ton of just women's wrestling promotions, so maybe I am out of my depth here, but to me, she is the best women's, wrestler in the world. And, just watching her matches, she is amazing. And, Kairi is right behind her as far as, how amazing she is. If WWE is able to get both of them to come, or just Io by herself, I mean, just that opens the door. And, what Asuka did to open the door, she opens the door even wider for other women to come, and for other, not just Japanese women, but just women all over the world that want to come and say, man, you got Kana and you got Io here, and whoever else that they bring, we still don't know who all else is going to be signed for that Women's Wrestling Classic or whatever, and who gets to be brought in for that too. Just, it is crazy. It seems like WWE just goes, oh, well, we might get some of our male talent held back from us. Well, we'll just go after some of the top female talent then, and get you back that way. Just, it's amazing what they've been able to do with NXT, and if this happens, this is just, I mean, it's a sad moment for Stardom, and it's a sad moment for international wrestling, but it's cool for, her to be able to come and open eyes for her to be seen by a different group of people.
Yeah.
I would certainly like to think that this international outreach, sort of like what WCW used to do in the early 90s, brings a bunch of different eyes to different locales and different types of wrestling that you see all over the world. Honestly, in my opinion, I wouldn't have known Japanese wrestling existed if it wasn't for WCW's crossovers with New Japan in the early 90s when I was a kid. And I don't know if a lot of people in my generation can say the same, but I'm sure people older than myself who remember, or maybe a little bit younger, I would like to think they would say the same thing. And same with I wouldn't have found Lucha Libre if it hadn't been for WWE bringing in cruiserweights, or ECW or WCW doing it too. So, I mean, it does open eyes, and hopefully this helps grow the business outside of WWE and not just helps them out solely.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly helps those wrestlers, too. I mean, obviously now the Cruiserweight Classic guys that haven't signed with WWE, they can go command bigger rates when they go be on indie shows because, hey, I'm on WWE TV all the time. Or not all the time, but at least once a month. That means something. That means you're a draw to that indie promotion, and so that helps them, and that helps that promotion, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And this is great, I know, like you guys are saying, and WWE, is always looking for new talent, and this is the best way to do it, the way they're doing it, not just sticking in the U.S., they are getting international talent, and they are finding some diversity that, is always needed. You want to reach many different demographics, that's the best way to do it. So I think it's really cool, and we'll have to see what these young ladies do when they get into the system. Let's talk about something else with WB. Let's talk about their quarter 3 financials. And Sean, I mean, we've got some interesting tidbits here that I think people may be interested in hearing.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to go through it. Listen, when this stuff happens, unless you're a business nerd, which I'm not, I care about some of this business stuff because I have stock in WWE or whatever, and this is kind of cool, but I mainly care about the things that you guys care about, which is what are the network numbers right now, which we do have to remember this is a quarter without WrestleMania. The previous quarter did include WrestleMania, and they only dropped, I mean, look, it's part of 1 million, so yes, that is a significant number, but when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, the drop from 1.458 million to 1.444, that you got to consider that a win if you're WWE, as far as, wow, we didn't just catastrophically drop after WrestleMania season was over. That's really good if you're WWE, considering, like, we want to be able to grow this every quarter. We want the year over year to go up, and the year over year obviously went up a lot for the network this time. So that's a plus. Their revenue is up 8%, which, I mean, that's not outlaying the costs that they're still having to pay for the network and all the other things too. They have 1.07 million subscribers in the United States, and then the rest of the world has about 373,000, so it's still very predominantly domestic as far as how big the network is and how the people that are subscribing to it. They have 7,000 hours of content on the network, which is like 4 times the amount they had, February of 2014 when this thing launched, which is pretty amazing. And they just added, I think, 2004, 2005 SmackDowns a couple days ago. So they're continuing to add things. So now you can watch even more of the previous brand split if you want to go do that. And just, yeah. I mean, they had good social media stuff, good, their live attendance was sort of a little bit down, but not that much. So, yeah.
Sounds like some good news for WWE all the way around, and that's positive. And of course, it's just interesting things that people may want to know. Well, let's get into something that's really good for Lucha Underground.
Go
ahead.
Vince did once again play around with the notion, which I remember it coming out in some kind of, I don't know if it was Motley Fool or a Forbes piece a few years ago. That whole thing about how Vince said that he didn't want to sell to family if he really had it his way. He once again talked about he would sell WWE if the price was right. Obviously, I don't know what the price is right for him, but just saying.
Well, let's get Bob Barker on the phone and let's find out.
How did I know you were going to go?
Drew Carey nowadays there, Gary. Get with the time.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm about 87 years old, so it's hard for me to remember these things.
Yeah, Gary literally walks out with a walker to go back up to, his room when he gets done with the podcast.
Yeah, you don't know this. I got an oxygen tank on and everything. That's how I do this show. So anyway, enough making fun of myself and elders. Let's talk about the fact that Lucha Underground has some good news too. They are actually, doing something when it comes to inking deals outside of this country in the U.S. They inked a deal with, a broadcasting deal with TNT Serie in Germany, and so that will allow them to air on Saturdays for the people over there in Germany to watch Lucha Underground. This is good news.
The really cool thing is, one, that TNT Serie here is going to start with season 1 and just go through all the backlog over there in Germany, which is quite cool. Secondly, seeing them make international deals like that, I think is really, really good. It helps spread awareness outside of the States, obviously, and I feel like that's such a big and in thing right now, not only just in wrestling, but in anything, business, entertainment, whatever you're doing. Wanting an international appeal is the way to go, and if this goes well, who knows what else TNT might do for him going down the road. So
Yeah, this is cool. I mean, I've always liked hearing about Lucha Underground being, and this is one of the nice things about being able to kind of sell yourself as a series and say, okay, we've got 3 seasons of this. We've got, what is it, about, close to 100 episodes, if not 100 episodes, and you can have all of them. I mean, that's pretty amazing if you think about it. And the more these things they do, the more money they can have in, and that's good for the company as far as being able to have more revenue.
Definitely. I think it's really cool, and it's hopefully going to be something that grows. Hopefully you'll see and hear other countries signing broadcasting deals with them, and I would be very thrilled to hear, if we have a situation where TNA, like TNA's in right now, where they have multiple, different international deals that are really helping them financially, and of course given, some little bit more people, getting a chance to see their product. That's what makes me happy. Well, let's jump into a few rapid hits here, guys, and we'll kind of run through these. There are some interesting things when it comes to, the fact that we were talking about the women in the Hell in a Cell. We actually have a UFC fighter, Alpha Cat Zingano, I think that's how you say her name. She actually challenged the winner of the women's Hell in a Cell match.
that's interesting, I guess, to say the least. I'm trying. Is this the chick who just lost the championship? I don't think it is.
I'm not sure. I didn't see. I thought you might know. I don't really follow UFC a whole lot, so we'll have to find out. But
I'm not into MMA as much as I used to be. Let's see what I can do here.
I just thought it was interesting. She actually responded to a Sasha Banks tweet, and that's how this kind of challenge came out. Sasha said something about, people are coming after her crown. And so basically she retweeted Sasha to get that. So I don't know. It's interesting. UFC, of course, always has a little bit of connection when it comes to WWE, just because of the fact that we've seen like Brock Lesnar and different people kind of cross over. So this could be very interesting.
She lost to Rousey last year, and then she lost another fight earlier this year in July. But she beat Miesha Tate back in 2013. I think I'm vaguely familiar with who this is now. I mean, like you said, it's cool. Any crossover appeal, especially with MMA still being as hot as it is, and women's MMA, I think it's probably cooling off since Rousey lost, but certainly I think it still has something to offer, and if they can make this a deal or into anything, then hats off to you. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm not a. I really
I love it.
know what to say here.
I love it. Sean's just kind of lost for words. Kind of the same way I was. I just kind of brought it up. I thought maybe Paul may know this person, and also that was kind of interesting. Especially when UFC fighters acknowledge WB. Of course, wrestlers and specific wrestlers, because of the fact that that they're so above paying attention. How do they know them? That's my thought process. Let's talk about some other women, and they are trying to make something happen in the world of wrestling. Brooke Hogan, Lacey Von Erich, DDP's daughter, and Jean-Claude Van Damme's daughter are all teaming up, and they are planning to make a promotion that rivals that evil giant corporation wrestling company, TNA Impact Wrestling.
There were some fun replies that I saw to this news breaking out. TMZ reported this after they had an interview with Diamond Dallas Page's daughter, who I think this is Brittany. It might be I can't remember. He has 2 daughters, I know that. And anyways, they're opening this promotion. They said their dads might be involved at some point. But honestly, rivaling TNA, I'd like to think that's them setting a realistic goal. So I'm interested, though. It's a fun time to be involved in women's wrestling and seeing what they can do with it. If anything comes of this, that'll be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, what are we talking about again?
We're talking about Lacey, Von Erich, and Brooke Hogan, all those.
I was
like,
trying
yeah.
to talk about this. Why?
You're like, this doesn't matter.
No, it's just Brooke Hogan. Like, are you high? I mean, like, just why?
Her daddy's got all this lawsuit money just dropping in his lap. I mean, I'm sure she's just like, Daddy, I mean, I want my... Dixie got her own promotion. I want mine. You know,
Like,
kind of
I
thing.
can
Daddy,
still have
the
you
Carters
show
bought
up there,
her.
Dad, 70 years old. What you doing, brother? I'm like, no. No, he wanted to see you again.
Yeah.
He'll be sitting
It's
there
so weird.
thinking, he'll be asking WWE, like, oh man, this promotion didn't work out. I need to be in wrestling again. Can you please hire me? And just
Yeah, he's... Please hire me. I promise I didn't say anything about Latinos. I promise. You know, until the next video comes out, and then fired again.
please, I hope the guy gets no more videos. Please.
Oh, yeah, me too. Me too. And, of course, one last thing we're going to talk about really quickly here. Jack Evans got fired from AAA.
Yeah, I don't know if this has anything to do with Lucha Underground anymore, but I haven't really read too much into this one.
He said something to the fact that AAA was better when Conan was running it. And so AAA, you know, has problems with Conan. They're not going to be too happy about him just going around going, hey, you guys suck, you know that, right? Like, just, you kind of just can't talk bad about the company in interviews like that, so. I don't think he straight said that, but, you know, they got offended, so.
Yeah, they're a little touchy these days. But anyway, you know, Jack Evans will move on. He'll do good. And lastly, the one last thing we... Go ahead. No, I mean, it's just going to go into the really quickly. I wanted to talk. Gabe Sapolsky is going to have a new promotional thing when it comes to wrestling, and that's going to be called Styles Clash. So this is going to be something interesting here. What do you think, Sean? Can I give us some information about this?
It's apparently a promotion where you have matches against with guys that have styles that clash, and that's kind of all we know about it right now.
It's very literal.
It's a spin-off idea from Evolve. There's a Styles Clash or Style Clash tournament that they do in there every year. And that's exactly what it is. You have a high flyer against a technical wrestler. You have a brawler against a high flyer. You have so many different styles of wrestling. You know, luchador versus like a British guy or something like that. I'm assuming he's just going to take that idea and make it a promotion-wide thing, sort of like what early MMA was.
Yeah, it sounds very much like early MMA. So, I mean, it could work, I guess. I think I have to see it before I buy into it. But it's definitely an idea.
I think it depends on names. And you have to find guys who truly represent a style and not everybody who's sort of blended their stuff so they can work anywhere, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I have to think Matt Riddle for sure going to be involved in this.
Yeah, probably.
And Grado for comedy wrestling, I guess.
You got to represent that, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Either that or Colt Cabana will do it. We'll find out. But yeah, that's quick hits, guys.
Hold on,
we have a lot of other stuff to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to just bring up the point of we didn't get to talk about this, but a guy that we've talked about on these New Japan shows because he's been coming from Noah, but Kazuchika Nakajima, he's now the GHC World Heavyweight Champion, and he says that he wants to wrestle Kento Miyahara and Okada, and he says he's going to beat both of them to show that Noah is better.
I believe he also made a mention that he wanted to hold all of the belts, too, if I remember correctly.
Right. I mean, this is cool. This is good for Noah. Man. I'm so glad Suzuki Gun doesn't have the main title anymore. It was just getting to the point where it was like, should we watch this promotion? They are just owning everything.
When it comes to Noah, we've thought they were Suzuki Gun was going to be done before, and it didn't work out. So hopefully it sticks this time. I like Nakajima a lot. I actually watched that show today. The match was pretty awesome, and him versus Okada, obviously you could definitely see, especially right now with the Noah stuff they're doing on that same show. Shibata took on Go Shiozaki in a freaking brutal-ass match that I'd recommend to anybody. Nakajima and Okada probably isn't far off the map if they want to do that. And All Japan is the outlier, though. They're still they're trying to get back on their feet, and that's something they've only started doing this year after years of kind of circling. So I don't know.
I love that Meltzer said that match from the New Japan show with Nakanishi and Yoshitatsu and Phone Soldier and whatever. He's like, this has got to be one of the worst matches I've ever seen in my entire life.
Jeez.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't
something.
joking when it was terrible. He just took it to another level. And Noah's about to start their G1, which is called the Global League Tournament, and both Nakajima and Marufuji are in it, so they're doing 2 G1s this year. That's pretty amazing. Stamina that you have to have. Well, and Yano too, he's in that one. So, cool.
Wow, lots of cool stuff going on over there. And one last thing, since we're adding something else, me and Sean didn't really talk about this on our SmackDown review. So I'm going to bring this up really quickly, but it's kind of funny, Sean. Have you watched Talking Smack since we had that review show?
I have not watched
Sean.
Talking Smack since then.
Okay, so basically, Renee Young brought up the idea to Daniel Bryan that she be able to wear something Halloweenish because the fact that the next SmackDown is after Halloween, but she's not going to get to be on Raw where they get to dress up and all that. She wants to be a part of the fun, and he tells her no. And then he says, "You can't do that because you're a woman and you can't make up your mind that fast." And she kind of took it back, being sexist. And then we had Heath Slater on SmackDown itself saying that, the guys were pushing a woman in front of them, which was Maurice. And I kind of thought that was kind of sexist, too. So I thought it was kind of funny. We had a very sexist episode of SmackDown. So I don't know if anybody caught that, if you watched SmackDown and both Talking Smack. I just kind of thought funny, those two things hand in hand. I loved it. So not that I love sexism. I love that we got to see something that's not very PC. It's okay. My wife's asleep. She didn't hear me say that.
The way you said that was just like you enjoyed the whole sexism stuff, and then you're like, "Oh, whoops! I need to repeat myself."
Sorry. The Ring of Honor part of me came out. I had to man up, And then, yeah. So I apologize for that. I didn't mean it that way, but yes, it sounded terrible. Anyway, so I can get out of this hole I'm crawled into. Let's go ahead and talk some NXT. How about it? We've got a lot of stuff to talk about still, guys. We got NXT. We're still going to talk Impact. We're still talking about Lucha Underground. But let's talk NXT first.
I don't know if I can recover from the...
WWE Developmental NXT.
Well, I mean, it's still not as bad as John Cena saying to children in an audience that his favorite food is, Nikki Bella's J. So, and then Bree's response was, "Brian, you were going to say the same thing, right?" And then Brian turns total well, yeah, I would have said the same thing.
It's stuff like that makes me think that Total Divas isn't fake at all.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that we have to remember that Daniel Bryan and Bree are more into the nature, and he probably thinks we don't take showers for a couple days. Maybe not. So
Man,
God bless you, Gary. You're the best, man.
I hope she's washing down there at least. All right. Anyway, before we get into more sexism apparently on this show, let's talk about NXT, which did not have sexism on it. So we start out with now. Why am I blanking? I just watched it. Literally, I just watched the show. It was the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic match with DIY. Of course, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. I'm sure Gary is going crazy as I say his name. And against Ho Loon and Tian Bing, the first time we're seeing Mr. Bing here. Of course, the guy that they signed from China after they made the deal over there. He was actually apparently speaking to everybody in Mandarin during they made the deal and everything. Ho Loon is slightly better, and that's about the best compliment I can give him at this point. I mean, look, he's trying. He's trying at least. This was about 4 minutes. It was what it was. There's some, Bing looks decent. He could obviously turn into something good for them. Obviously, they like him because of his size. Look, you get him and Ho Loon next to each other, it's like, whoa, you got this short guy and this giant next to him. It was really funny to see.
Yeah, and I actually ended up walking away pretty happy with what I saw from Tian Bing. Granted, it wasn't anything more than the basic stuff, but the basic stuff he did well. I honestly thought he was almost better than Ho Loon after the match was over. That being said, DIY goes over. They finish him off with that knee strike super kick combo that looks like it would pretty much kill you no matter which way you took it. And obviously no surprise there, but certainly I think a fine showing, at least from Tian Bing.
Yeah, I mean, for a guy that hasn't been in this system and really really new, he did look fine, and that's good. I mean, you got to be happy with that. And we obviously knew who was going to win this match. It was going to be Gargano and Ciampa. So I'm okay with that. But at least I got to showcase some guys that needed a little airtime.
Certainly. And speaking of airtime, Kota Ibushi and T.J. Perkins get airtime speaking backstage, as they ask T.J. Perkins about how he and Kota Ibushi became partners, and that Perkins knows him, he's wrestled against him, and now they're going to team up because Hideo Itami went down. Kota Ibushi is the cool kid times 5 at the table. So Kota Ibushi is so cool he could replicate himself 5 times. And not only that, but apparently he wants to know what Kota Ibushi's overall level is in the game that apparently they're playing here on NXT. And he's like, oh man, what are you, a 95? And Ibushi's like, no, I'm a 99. Just the fact that Ibushi said that was funny, but it's just like, oh my god, the video game references just doesn't stop, even on NXT.
See, it would be like me, if I was a wrestler, I wouldn't be making video games references. I'd be making, 80s references, just because I'm a fan of the 80s, and I would say, mine's 99, and 99 red balloons would go by, So that's just, one of his gimmick, but it's still annoying. It's even on NXT, I find it just headache.
I didn't mind this one as much because it sort of fed into the part where TJ is focused on being the best, and he only hangs out with the best, and he sort of worked the video game reference into that, which is what I think TJP's gimmick is supposed to be. He's focused on being this top guy in the cruiserweight division that's coming off all this hype. On Raw, they really focus on the video game thing. On here, it feels more like an aspect of his character and not his entire gimmick, which I am much more okay with.
I'd agree with you on that. If it's just okay, but he doesn't have to tie it into every promo. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was just, oh, I dropped this line here and there, but just because I guess we heard him do it again on Raw, and then he did it here, it was like, oh, why? But, yeah, speaking of more talking, you get Samoa Joe also getting interviewed about, you know, changing his mind on attacking Nakamura, and, you know, basically Nakamura attacked him again, and he's like, well, I did it because I can put him on the shelf again whenever I want. So, good for Joe to find his way out of that there. And we got Aaliyah and Billy Kay, which this was just pretty much actually, Aaliyah got some good offense in here, but it was basically set up so that you could have the angle where Liv Morgan comes in, distracts Peyton Royce, and then Aaliyah wins with a roll-up because, you know, distraction, roll-up. NXT, I thought you were better. Why? Why do we have this damn finish in NXT? It's terrible. But then we had the big 4-women brawl in here, that was actually cool to see. You don't see that too often, so I enjoyed that, and it showed that Liv was pissed about all the stuff they've been doing to her, so you add more to the story.
Here's what I really like about this. This match is throwaway, and as Sean said, it's meant to advance the storyline between Billy Kay, Peyton Royce, Liv Morgan, and now Aaliyah, it seems like. But this at least feels like they're building up a next sort of big four to take over the division. And this is, I think, a nice little snapshot and something you can go back and look at and be like, well, here's the moment where you knew what at least NXT and WWE are planning on the future of the division being, and it's these 4 girls. And honestly, I mean, I think I'm okay with it. Aaliyah is a little raw still, just like everybody else is, but there's a lot of hope, I think, in this division going forward while Asuka's holding down the top.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree.
Ember in there, too.
Of course, Ember Moon, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is just, progress. That's really all I need to say about it. It's just you're progressing, and you're making a path for not only Liv Morgan, but for everybody in this division. And then, of course, we'll talk about the Asuka situation too.
That knee to the face thing at the end, that was pretty devastating. That was a pretty great way to just end the segment.
Billy Kay and Peyton Royce might have 2 of the most brutal mafia big boot kicks you ever want to see in a women's division. Like, they take your face off, I think.
Helps when you got those long legs.
It's very true. Very, very true.
So, the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger, he gets to go against Noah Poches. Isn't he related to Roman Reigns in a way?
Who isn't? It doesn't matter. He gets squash city'd here, baby.
I'm just trying to remember why he's there. But yeah, he gets the tiebreaker, and Ty wins, and then he gets attacked by the glorious one, Bobby Roode, which, we could kind of see that coming a mile away, especially when the interview happens on the frickin' ramp. But still, it's just, again, we're progressing the story. It's not anything, groundbreaking, but it's simple and effective.
I'm really looking forward to that match, honestly. I think it's going to be rock solid top to bottom. You got 2 great workers in there, and they're both over as shit with the crowd. So, I mean, almost co-main event, I think.
Yeah, who's the crowd going to cheer for more?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is, I'm glad that the Perfect 10 is actually getting a chance to, do something here. And, it's nice that, we, get to see Bobby Roode again. That's all I have to say about that. I mean, but, nothing super special here. They kind of did what you expected. You knew if you saw, Perfect 10, you were going to see the guy who was glorious.
Yep. He was a glorious 10 on that night. So, we move on to more. TM61 reminds us that they have Austin Aries and Roderick Strong, and that they are the mighty and they don't kneel. So, again, I love the fact that they can actually find a way to put in their old name into their catchphrase, and then they get to actually, they have their actual WWE names. That's pretty amazing, because I don't think anybody else has actually really thought of, how could I still have my old gimmick but not? So that's smart on their part. And I will say, that we haven't talked about it, but did you see that nasty black eye that Austin Aries had after he got whacked in the face by a Shinsuke Nakamura kick? And then, I don't know if that's really Nakamura's foot or not, but it's pretty bloody.
A lot of people say that picture of his foot is like the 7th picture that comes up on the Google image search for bruised feet. So take that for what you will.
Yeah, it's probably it's him trolling.
I imagine so. At any rate, I just saw the video too. The kick is pretty nasty. Like the toe of his boot catches Austin just perfectly on the eye. It's nasty.
Yeah, and then Nakamura immediately knows he messed up, and he goes over to him. So you can appreciate that, at least,
Yeah, definitely. And I'd look at this as just something interesting that they did here, and just once again something that's just kind of put there to kind of progress.
We have a former TNA wrestler sighting again. More TNA wrestlers. Rosita this time. Thea Trinidad, obviously. She, before when Austin Aries was doing that little stint in ROH when he first left TNA, they had them kind of just be together, because it was Austin Aries against, I think, Mike Bennett at that point. So Maria was around, and so he brought the Trinidad in to kind of be his enforcer against Maria, and it then found out that that's actually his girlfriend. So that's perhaps why Rosita's getting the tryout here. But I thought she did fine against Asuka. I mean, she didn't really get to do anything, but it's Asuka. You're not really going to get to do anything.
Yeah, I think this was nothing more than it needed to be, and that is another lady that Asuka gets to pretty much murder because that armbar was totally legit. I also just saw that Thea Trinidad just signed with Stardom too, so that's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think this is fine and dandy. Asuka looks amazing like always, and then of course, you get what's most important, and that's the announcement that I think people wanted to hear about.
And then William Regal, as Gary alluded to, we already talked about this announcement, obviously, but they had Mickie James pull Nakamura and have him, she basically announces that she is going to be there. The crowd was really into this, which is great. You want to know that they're going to be excited to see her, and Asuka was freaking marking out over there watching it too. It was funny. She was like, yeah, Mickie James. It's like, all right, so we're going to have Mickie James and Asuka at the takeover in Toronto. Again, we knew about this, but it's still cool to see the video.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool, and it was, kind of weird to see Mickie James back in any form on WWE, even though it is NXT. But still, it's neat to see this take place, and I think it's a match that people really want to see. So I'm happy.
I mean, the best part to me about this was that Mickie, I think, absolutely knocked that promo out of the ballpark, too. All that spunk and energy that I think she had whenever she first showed up in the WWE was on full display. So I too am really looking forward to this. Not to mention, they're going to they're actually going to kick the crap out of each other, which is going to be awesome.
Could be messy, but
it could be messy, but it is awesome.
Speaking of messy, we didn't talk about this. Do you think that we see a Sasha and Charlotte fly off the cell, or do perhaps one of the ladies bleed in that match? I'm not saying that they'll, blade or whatever, but maybe on accident.
I mean, accidents are a little harder, but they won't do it on purpose. But I certainly could think that it might be accident. I don't think they'll do anything too big. They might do what Dean and Seth did, where they both sort of climbed up on the side and fall off, or maybe one of them goes through the cell wall or something like that. But I don't think it'll be anything too big.
Yeah, I think, it's kind of a stretch anyway to have them in this match. I don't think they're going to push it too far. Now, saying that, I kind of hope they allow them to do what needs to be done, but I'm afraid that they're going to kind of, push them back a little bit because they don't want to get in trouble or have people, raise Cain over that match.
Yeah, and then you get to the last match on the show here, which is Kota Ibushi, DJ Perkins against Lince Dorado and Mustafa Ali. This was a pretty good match. It's a main event to end the show here. I really enjoyed this. You had Kota Ibushi come in for the hot tag and just went nuts on both guys. I thought everybody looked good here too, which is another plus of the Cruiserweight division. You hardly ever have somebody look bad. And, Perkins and Ibushi win, and then after the match, TJ and Ibushi do the dab. Didn't think I'd see Ibushi dabbing, but it happened.
Oh my god. So
it
awesome.
happened is a word for it, I think. I think the match is good. I enjoyed Kota Ibushi's part in this. I think Mustafa Ali, he looked great in this match, I think. Absolutely. He's really grown on me in his appearances here in the Classic and on NXT, so, and he's been killing it around the indie circuit too since the Classic too, which is great to see that it's worked out for somebody else other than the big names, that sort of kept him near top of cards and stuff like that, so go Ali.
Yeah, and this is just a lot of fun to watch. I mean, it was a match that I was, pleased to see. And, at the end of the day, I'm just excited about, what's going on. And I just look at it and saying that this Cruiserweight, Classic has definitely added some awesome guys to what is now the, Dusty Rhodes Classic. So it makes it even better this year, if you ask me.
I can't see Sanity losing, though.
Yeah, so, your quarterfinals are set now. You have Team 6-1 taking on Austin Aries and Roderick Strong. Ibushi and Perkins taking on Sanity, Authors of Pain, and No Way Jose and Rich Swann, and The Revival and DIY. I, too, don't see Sanity losing. I think they make it to the finals.
Man, so who beats Authors of Pain?
It's a great question.
Yeah, I don't know the
have
answer.
two heel groups in there. You're right, though. Sanity is the new debuting team, but man, Authors of Pain haven't even been knocked down, let alone freaking beat. I have a feeling like Sanity will wind up losing to whoever one of the face teams is over there, and maybe you have Powers of Pain, whatever. Authors of Pain win, or go all the way to the final. No.
I had a buddy of mine, Andy, who thinks that they're going to be pretty hot on TM6-1 and that they're going to make it to the final too. So, anything's possible.
They do have that simmering feud that never kind of ended with the Revival.
Mm-hmm.
So that wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch no matter what, So I'm looking forward to it. And, once again, NXT has some great matches and it has some things moving forward. And I think, before you know it, we'll be talking about, that Toronto show. So lots of cool stuff coming your way when it comes to NXT. All right, well, let's move on. We are going to talk Lucha Underground. And, of course, we saw some other stuff on the show. I did not have an opportunity to watch this show, so hopefully Paul and Sean can fill you in on everything great from Lucha Underground this week. So we'll be right back with that next.
All right, Paul.
All right. So we get that usual highlight recap video package to start us off, of course, that highlights everything you're going to see on the show. And then we go to Dario's office. Sexy Star storms in. She wants to turn in the Gift of the Gods title so she can get her Lucha Underground title match next week. Dario says that's all well and good, but she's got to defend that title first tonight against Johnny Mundo, which we saw set up last week. And he has said that if Drago, Aerostar, and Phoenix get involved, they will be banned from the Temple for life. Which, God, I hope that doesn't happen because that would be very sad. Sexy then says she doesn't need anybody's help to beat anybody and leaves. Dario mutters after she's gone that women don't tend to fare very well against his brother. Just ask his mother. And that has me afraid for Sexy's life.
Jeez, what a dick that guy is. I mean, like, just imagine saying that to somebody. Yeah, this was and Dario just doesn't miss a beat with these things, and good here as always. And I mean, didn't they ban Drago from the Temple for Life before, and he came back? So, you know,
I mean, when you're a dragon, I suppose you can do what you please, right?
that's true.
And then we get to our first match of the evening as Ivelisse takes on Marty the Moth Martinez, who's got Mariposa with him at ringside. I like this match personally. I thought they worked pretty well together and worked a good flow that worked with the time given. I know Larry wasn't his biggest fan. Marty does win this one with a tossing full Nelson slam sort of thing. I don't know if it has a name or anything like that, but post-match they go to they toss Ivelisse out of the ring and sort of celebrate in a way I guess only the Martinez brother-sister clan can do here. And Sami Callihan, of course, runs out and starts beating him up. Ivelisse hops in, get ourselves a big brawl, and that sends Marty and Mariposa running, and Ivelisse doesn't seem happy to see Sami in the ring.
I mean, I don't know that I'd be too happy to see Sam in the ring either, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. I mean, this was fine. I didn't hate it like Larry did, but I can understand what he's saying, too. I hate the rah, intergender announcers, or announce crap that they do, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, we forgot that we're trying to set women's rights up a bit, so now it's like, oh, well, she lost, whatever. It's back to whatever it was before. It's like, what? You guys have been championing intergender wrestling for like this whole year, and you guys act like it's nothing when they lose.
They've done that the entire time, though, so I guess I just didn't think anything of it, but I very rarely pay attention to what they're saying on commentary unless it's like an after the match segment or something like that, you know. So. Anyways,
so you're saying Matt Striker is forgettable?
Yeah.
Thank God we don't have Harry on here. We started a 20-minute conversation about.
Overuses hyperbole for my taste, but
yeah.
We get another promo for the White Rabbit Clan, I guess, or the Rabbit Clan, or whatever they're going to be. We finally see a person this go-around, though. He's sort of dressed up like the Mad Hatter, and he says he followed the White Rabbit back to his tribe, and now he's been found, and then we get that they're coming soon, and all that good stuff. So, interesting stuff there. We cut to Ivelisse and Sami Callihan arguing out in the parking lot. Sami lets her know that Dario offered him a deal, and he's taking it because it's been his dream to beat people up for a living, and Ivelisse is not pleased with the entire idea. Sami, however, comes back with the oh so commonly known saying of a couple that slays together stays together. Let me tell you how many times I've heard that one about successful couples. And Ivelisse eventually comes around and accepts it and says that if Dario makes some fight, she'll kick his ass, and then Sami seems to love it when she talks dirty to him like that, so... What a weird relationship.
Seems like it's just the one they would do in wrestling. It's just, you know, what's Ivelisse's thing with just, she just doesn't like she apparently just doesn't like any of the men she was ever with, because anytime they ever go to the temple, she's like, oh, why am I looking at you? It's just,
Well, this time around, she wanted to keep her personal and professional life separate, and Sammy has blatantly broken that rule twice now. So I see she has a reason to be upset at the very least.
Very true. But now this is going to be interesting. Obviously, I'm sure this will lead to some kind of them fighting and all that stuff. And, we'll have to see how it involves the other men and women relationships that they have on the show, which is starting to get to like where we have quite a few already.
Getting there. I mean, it just goes into the entire telenovela field. But Dario hops into a waiting limo after that. Councilman Delgado informs him that his dissension has been completed. We don't really know who that is, but it's some sort of Aztec god because he's got something inside that box and wants to know if Dario has a host body lined up. And Dario says he's got two in mind who are almost godlike already. He passes Dario the chest and says they won't be almost anymore after this. And I'm assuming this is referring to what's in the chest. And the two guys that Dario have in mind are competing for this ultimate opportunity. So that tells you who he's looking at least, and that's the next match as Cage takes on Tejano in match 3 of 5 here. These have gotten progressively better. This one was laid out very well. I think Tejano jumps Cage early to sort of show that he's down 2-0 and he gives a shit about that. So, and then they brawl over the ringside area. They throw each other into the guardrails. Tejano tosses Cage into like the first 3 or 4 rows of the chairs at ringside. And big move after big move. They use one of my favorite moves in pro wrestling, that sunset flip powerbomb on the outside. It's just brutal. And Tejano manages to catch Cage after he lazily covers him after hitting that Luchador Destroyer, his F5, which won him the second match, if I remember correctly. So it was a nice bit of storytelling there because Cage thought it was over. Tejano gets him in the small package and gets the victory.
Perfectly well done as far as having Tejano win and taking nothing from Cage because it's his fault that he lost. I really enjoyed this as well. This was it's great to see two guys going out there freaking wailing, doing big moves, and I mean Cage is great at that obviously too. He's like the dude that just hits all the freaking power moves and you're like in awe. He does it again, but this time he loses, and so the feud continues.
Too true. And after that, we cut back to Dario, who's eyeing the chest on his desk. He's opened it, and there's this big glowing blue stuff coming out of it. Ray knocks on his office door and comes in, which is very considerate of Ray in hindsight, because everybody always seems to just storm in. Ray is sick of Chavo always stabbing him in the back. He's had to deal with it for a long time, and he doesn't want to deal with it in Lucha because there's a bigger goal that he's after. So he wants Dario to make a loser leaves Lucha match, and Dario accepts, of course, and looks forward to seeing the match. Ray knows he isn't going to enjoy it as much as Dario is, but sometimes you got to put a dog down for his own good. And man, am I happy they're getting rid of this feud quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Good Lord, please. Just, I'm guessing we all know who's going to win this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we all do, and that's fine overall. If it obviously, I guess they just need to keep Ray busy for whatever amount of time, but the sooner the better. And next week looks to be the end of it. And then we get the main event. Sexy Star defends the Gift of the Gods title against Johnny Mundo. This is completely overbooked to the hills and back. Of course, there's ref bumps. Sexy Star has the match won twice. The second time, PJ Black and Jack Evans come out, beat her up some. It's still not enough to keep her down after all of that. As they're getting ready to, they wrap a chair around Sexy's neck. Johnny goes up for the end of the world. But the Mac comes out, beats up PJ and Jack Evans, seeing as he still got Sexy Star's back from the whole Mariposa thing last season. And his fighting with those two on the outside sort of ends up distracting Sexy, who walks into a power of the punch from Johnny Mundo as he's laced his fist with a pair of brass knucks, and that gets him the championship win.
Well, at least he won in a very dastardly fashion to keep people freaking totally hating on him. I got no problem with that. Okay. I mean, this is fine. I didn't think the match was anything because it's so overbooked, but I mean, good that they have the title on Johnny Mundo. He's a great character that they have on the show, and let's see where they go with this.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I might have overrated this, but I was pretty pumped that Johnny Mundo's got the title back, and I think once you start getting... This was something I didn't mind being overbooked, honestly. It fits into everything they've done with the story so far. The only problem, like, the opening minutes before you get to all of that, they work the very same formula as the opener, pretty much, with Johnny overpowering, sexy, and, you know, we had literally just saw that 30 minutes ago. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but... Anyways, to finish up, we get that little last backstage segment there. Prince Puma is beaten on a sandbag. Vampiro shows up and says that he knows Puma isn't done with Meal yet because he hasn't beaten Meal completely. And he says that for Puma to reach his full potential, he's going to have to do to Meal what Meal did to Conan, and that's put him in a casket, it seems like. So we might be building up to another Grave Consequences match. And Vampiro at the end quickly adds that he's always hated Conan, but he's always respected Puma. So, intrigue abounds on Lucha Underground as we finish up yet another episode, Sean.
Yes, we do. And, hey, never going to say no to a Grave Consequences match.
Too true.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, great job with Lucha Underground, but now we are going to move on and talk some TNA Impact Wrestling. And, you know, I'll say this. We get lots of great stuff from those Hardy Boys. Right back with that next.
TNA Impact Wrestling.
I wonder if they're going to keep this song very much longer since, you know, it's a Billy Corgan thing. But, of course, like Gary mentioned here at the beginning, they do have some great stuff with the Broken Ones, as Matt Hardy has a personal pumpkin patch for his Halloween celebration. And the whole family's there, and there's a maze of corn. Jesus, seriously. And then they're going to treat or delete for this festivity. I'm already enjoying that here. Just all the puns are just amazing. But there's that. I think Matt does treat or delete, and he gives out the dreaded green beans, guys. Whenever when he doesn't want green beans. Oh my God! I love the fact that we brought that back to the whole Matt Hardy doesn't like green beans.
He loves green beans.
I thought he hated green beans.
Oh no! You don't remember him asking for the delicacy? He loves green beans. That's why he was giving it to kids. In fact, it was one of our intros because I loved it so much, asking for green beans, and the lady's like, "We don't have any." He goes, "Go get some." Basically, it is funny. One of the kids actually eats the green beans and says it tastes bad. Yeah, it was a little funny, a little silly here, but there's a lot more to this. I'm jumping ahead.
He makes jokes about himself too with the fat Hardy stuff.
Oh, no one likes a fat Hardy. That's what he said, right? So yeah. I mean, this all to me was gold.
He's forgetting himself, so that's what's great about it.
I mean, Paul, literally, like, I think a quarter of the show was all Hardys doing their Halloween spectacular at their house. You know, Jeff making a design in the yard, them eating. Jeff actually eats corn. It's hilarious.
I loved these top to bottom. I really did. My favorite one had to be when the two people showed up dressed as Trump and Hillary. and Vanguard 1 shows up as a ghost.
Yes.
You have the Hurricanes show up too.
Yeah,
Oh man.
this was all great. All great. They can't miss with this stuff. It's so good.
I agree.
Fantastic. But there was an actual show besides the Hardy stuff, even though, sadly we can't have that whole show of just the Hardys. EC3 and Jesse Goddard take on Eli Drake and Aaron Rex. Okay. This was good stuff. I mean, it almost goes 15 minutes. But it's just your standard tag match here.
Yeah, I didn't really find anything super spectacular with it. I don't know if I was supposed to find anything amazing about it, but it was good for what it was worth. You get a chance to see, these guys, get in the ring and mix it up and, kind of showcase, your guy EC3 and Eli Drake and all that. So I think it was a way to fit him on the show. But besides that, not a whole lot.
Yeah, I too thought this was solid. I think you built up both your feuds involved in this pretty well with Eli Drake and EC3 and Aaron Rex and Jesse Goddard's. And somehow, some way, Goddard's has become sort of a sympathetic face in all this. And maybe it's just because Aaron Rex just seems so much bigger or, has just been so blessed that you kind of want Jesse to win. But it's kind of cool to be invested in Jesse Goddard's outside of the bromans.
Yeah, I agree. And, to see, where we got Aaron Rex here cheating and making Goddard's that baby face, I mean, it's actually a storyline you can kind of say, hey, I want to see where they go from here. Is a referee going to catch it? Things like that. So I think they kind of played it smart here.
Yeah. They, as I've noted too, Jesse he actually has been getting better, and I think people are starting to kind of come around to him, so that's good for him, Grado's going to dress up as somebody, so there's something. And we get more of Grado because his dream is to be here in TNA. And so he's going to dress up as a future TNA Hall of Famer, Robbie E. Good God. I just can't even.
Grado wanted to be a bro man, Sean. All he's ever wanted in life was to be a bro man.
I mean, come on. Don't we all? I mean, that's my biggest...
He can be Vince Russo and still be a bro man. He'd say bro all the time, bro.
Oh man!
I mean, really, he just got to rename himself to Robbie G, and we're covered, right? I think that's 3/4 of the qualifications.
Yeah,
I thought this was funny too. The spray tan to the face thing, I thought was hilarious.
It's silly, it's goofy, but you know what? It filled some time, and it kind of fit in with the Halloween theme and all that. And this is what you're going to get out of Grado. You're not going to expect a lot of serious stuff from him. So I thought it was fine. Yes, it didn't matter, and yes, it was kind of silly. But I'm sympathetic towards Grado, so I didn't hate it. I'm sure people out there listening are like, God, I hate this to death.
Yeah, that's surprising. Normally you are not the biggest fan of whatever Grado's doing.
I love Grado. I just sometimes it is kind of overbearing, but I do love Grado.
Well, I mean, you pair anybody up with Mahabali Shera, you're going to hate him.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ugh.
Especially with the finger points, guys. Just keep tapping your finger towards your arm; it'll do something.
Ugh.
I mean,
Worst thing ever.
Garbage.
So we have a more of the 6-man X Division stuff because we got to have that Team X gold, guys.
what? We still don't know what Team X Gold is, guys.
I don't
We're
know
almost
either.
a month. We're almost a month into this thing. Nobody knows what Team X Gold is except for DJZ, and I'm questioning whether DJZ even knows what Team X
I
Gold is.
think TNA knows what Team X Gold is. Hey guys, there's this thing called. Hey, we don't even know what team's gonna win it, so it's gonna be Team X, and you're gonna go for gold. Oh, Team X Gold. Let's go with that. And yeah, go out there and have 6-man matches, guys. That's what we're doing here. Ugh, stupid. We have a Brandy and Maria going at it, and Brandy calling Maria a bitch, which, her character is kind of one. So we get Lashley and Eddie Edwards doing a contract signing. I thought this was really well done. I mean, Lashley's kills it every time he does anything, but I thought Eddie Edwards is kind of like come on strong since you won the title. He's really kind of taken that into his own and really kind of taken it upon himself to get better and be someone you actually want to listen to when he goes on the microphone, and I applaud him for that.
What I really enjoyed about this contract signing was that they're finally getting to dig into how Edwards feels about beating Lashley, about how he wants to be the right kind of champion. And Lashley is just such a great foil to work off of right now because he's been so great this year. And he's so incredibly established as this big monster and a giant douche and all these other things that he has working for him that he's really the perfect opponent for Eddie right now. And this is a great time to really establish Eddie Edwards as something. So maybe despite getting off to a shaky start, this title reign could actually turn into something good for Eddie, which I'm totally okay with.
Yeah, I mean, I am not the biggest Eddie Edwards guy. He's okay. I don't have a problem with it. But, it's fun to see somebody like him hold the belt only because it's not the norm. And you've got a guy like Lashley who really, honestly, you kind of feel like the belt was made for. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic that I appreciate what they're trying to do here. Am I overly interested? Not really. But that's just me personally, because once again, I think I've kind of did something bad, and that's kind of typecast this guy as kind of a tag team guy. It's so hard for me to buy into him as just a singles guy who really is that impactful.
I can see that. So we have Laurel Van Ness, Chelsea Green against Allie, and of course the wrestling wasn't going to be good here because Allie's supposed to be not a wrestler, but Allie winds up winning by accident anyway. I think perfect way to tell the story, right?
I thought Van Ness won with a curb stomp.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing here. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm also sort of falling asleep, so
That's fair.
that doesn't help.
There's an interesting segment earlier in the night too, whenever Billy Corgan sort of offered Allie an out and said that he didn't have to fight, or she didn't have to fight Laurel because Maria doesn't make matches around here anymore. He does. And I question that now with the lawsuit. But anyways,
Yeah.
Allie sort of stands up and said, "This is one of those moments in life where you have to stand up for yourself." And she sort of, spoke to her own self there, and I really enjoyed that. She's such an easy character to get behind. You want to see her succeed at some point, and I was pulling for her the entire match, but with the way it went and the way they built it, I think they did exactly what you needed to do here. Allie got beat up. She got beat up bad, but, here we go.
It's funny to say, but I really appreciate this a lot. And just what Paul's saying here, that just, I know usually Billy Corgan in front of the camera does not appeal to me. I'm usually not caring even if he does whatever he does about his, ruling power. I just love the story. Yes, this is the ultimate underdog story. Yes, we've seen it 100 times, but Allie brings something to the table. It's emotion. I'm sorry, she just sells so well. and just really makes you believe that she's that innocent lady who just really can't get over the fact that she's being bullied by people that she wants to be best friends with, and she's having a tough time with it. And this match even kind of showed that as well. Did a great job in this match by proving that, she's innocent. She barely knows how to do things. She has a few Eugene moments where she kind of comes out of it and, gets some offense. But outside of that, it was just her trying to overcome. And at the end of the day, she doesn't. But this isn't the finale, and I'm invested. I really do want to know what happens next in this story.
Yeah, you do, because the crowd also gets really into what she's doing, so that helps a lot. Like, if the crowd didn't care, this wouldn't really be what it is, but they've really gotten this right so far, so hopefully that continues with her. We also find out that that Death Count Council wants a tag team title match with the Hardys, so we're going to get that next week. And we also find out that Jesse Goddard is going to have a Grand Championship rematch with Aaron Rex. And we're going to have this main event of Cody and Brandy Rhodes against Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis. And, well, let me tell you about this main event, guys. It was bad. It was bad. It's just... Bennett and look, listen. Mike Bennett is okay. He is not the wrestler that's going to set the world on fire, and so that means Cody benefits nothing from that at all here. And then you have Maria, and poor Brandy's like barely starting to learn wrestling, and Maria's not she's bad too. So it's like, you basically got two of the same quality wrestler wrestling each other, and then two not very well trained yet women fighting each other, and it's like, well, okay, we guess we had to have this, but
You're right. I wasn't expecting anything from this, honestly. Like you said, Brandy is still new to wrestling. She was originally being trained by the WWE. They transitioned her into being what she was, and now she's just recently started again. So I don't even know if she had a match. I think this was her first actual match. So that's cool for her to be able to do that on TV, but clearly she's not anywhere near passable at this rate, and that's fine. I mean, you're still new to this, and I'm willing to give a pass to. Maria, we know, is just not very good at wrestling. But I think she does fine as far as building herself up outside of the ring to make you at least be able to stand these kind of things. Just if there was somebody competent in the ring with her, it would be better. But unfortunately, Brandy just isn't that person right now. And I mean, Cody and Mike Bennett was fine, but there's a lot of boredom that you have during this match.
Yeah, that's the sad part about it. I mean, you got some people in this match that are really not going to do anything for most people. And, the two guys are, they're what they are. We've seen them before. We're happy when we get a chance to see them. But outside of that, I just feel bad. I really, really feel bad because you don't get much of a payoff when it comes to the women's part of this. And so, hopefully they get better. Hopefully the days are brighter with this whole thing. But right now, I am just not sold, and I'm not really happy with what we're getting. But, I think we could see some better days. So
yeah, and then Lashley basically attacked Cody, and Brandy was begging him to stop, and Lashley yelled that nobody comes in his house without his permission. Lashley, you are awesome.
There's a money match I would pay a lot for. Lashley and Cody Rhodes, that should be awesome.
Yeah, man, that does sound awesome. And I'm thinking to myself that, no, I'm down. I want to see this, and let's make it happen. This is a lot better than the Michael Bennett thing right now, and I think this is a great way get the whole heat thing on and conclude the show. I really do. I was fairly happy with it. I can't lie. I was pleased.
And that's TNA.
Yes, it is. So there you go, everyone. And of course, we will have some other great stuff next week. But before we get out of this show, we have to talk about crowning a superstar of the week, and we have one for you. So we will be right back with that right after this.
Superstar of the Week.
Alrighty. Well, let's get this thing started, guys. Let's talk about 1 point going to TJ Perkins and Kota Ibushi.
Yeah, good match over on NXT. They advanced in the Dusty Rhodes Classic, and they earned themselves a point for doing so.
We got 2 points going over to Tejano.
Yeah, this is a really good match. The best match on Lucha Underground this week. And he was able to get the win on Cage to make it a 2-1.
And with 3 points, Slater and Rhino.
The duo did indeed defend the SmackDown Tag Team titles against the Spirit Squad this week, and successful title defense means points. So hats off to you guys.
And with 4 points, ACH and Taiji Ishimori. Sorry, I said that wrong. Ishimori.
Hey, that's pretty good. Taiji Ishimori and ACH were able to beat the Young Bucks and eliminate them from the Super Juniors Tag Tournament, which the next round actually takes place in a couple of days on the 30th. That'll be on New Japan World. And yeah, I mean, beating the Bucks in a great match, that's nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, that's a great accomplishment there, and they get the 4 points.
And with 5 points and our superstar of the week, Johnny Mundo.
Johnny Mundo captures the Gift of the Gods title this week on Lucha Underground. That's his first taste of championship gold in that certain promotion, and hats off to him. It only took him 3 seasons, but here we are. He's got gold.
Yeah, and you're right. So, I mean, definitely a great superstar of the week. And I don't know how many points he has. I don't know if he's been on our list a whole lot this year so far. It's kind of funny, because you would think Johnny Mundo would be on there on a more regular basis, but he's not.
I think Mundo had been on here once or twice before. I think with this 5 points, it got him up to 10. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. So, but there you go. At least he got some major points this week. But that concludes our show. We've had a lot of great stuff to talk about. And, of course, we want to let you guys know we should have a pay-per-view review, hopefully Sunday night. If for some reason things change, we'll update you. Just like I said before, go check out W2M. It's actually Wrestling to the Max. Right out, Wrestling to the Max. Go join the group, and it is going to be right there on Facebook for you to add yourself to, and then you'll get all the information from us. Everything that we do will be right there. And we try not to give spoilers away. We try to tell everybody in that group not to spoil, so don't freak out and think that someone's going to spoil. We're going to hopefully be able to police that, and no spoilers for Hell in a Cell. Also, don't forget to go join the W2M Network. If you have, a way to go listen to your podcast and you'd like to subscribe, go subscribe to that. That's going to definitely get you all our episodes and a lot of other great content that you're not getting a chance to hear without it. And, W2Mnet.com. Not only do you get a lot of great wrestling reviews on there, but you get a lot of other great things when it comes to the world of football, video games, and even entertainment. So, a great website for your reading pleasure, and I hope you go check that out. Plus, you can find the podcast there too.
We'll have our written Hell in a Cell roundtable as well.
That's right.
On there, if not tomorrow, for sure on Saturday. So you can check the various writers' thoughts on the matches and everything else.
That's right. So it's a lot of great content for you guys, and of course. Sean, there's some other shows coming up this week. Why don't you kind of fill people in on some other great stuff they can check out?
Well, yeah. I mean, The Football 5 is up there. The AFL show's up there. Boxing the Squid is up there. It's also up on the website as well. You know, kind of short on the shows this week, so video game podcast hopefully is at noon tomorrow. I don't know, but yeah. Sorry, I'm about to pass out.
See, Sean needs some candy, and that to wake him up. Sean's had a really tough day, and he made it through the podcast with us. He at least stayed awake the entire time. We had to try to get it out of him. But you know what? We are going to be having great shows next week, too. Don't forget, Halloween night, there will be a Wrestling to the Max episode. That'll be episode 219, part 1. We'll have, of course, Ring of Honor talk and, all the big quick hits that came out of this weekend that we're not going to, cover until it happens. Plus, don't forget, of course, next Thursday's show, we'll be doing a Raw review for the Halloween night Raw, and of course SmackDown Live. So lots of great stuff coming your way next week. And of course, one last thing, I hope everyone has a very safe and fun Halloween. It's going to be a busy weekend. I know everybody's going to dress up. I know, Paul, you're going to go as what Pokemon again? I can't remember.
Pikachu, of course.
Pikachu, okay. So
Pikachu, of course.
And I'm going as Glenn from Walking Dead. So, and Sean, that naughty nurse outfit, I can't wait to see it on you. So send us pictures. Anyway, I kid. This is a lot of fun. But anyway, guys, really honestly, be safe. If you are going to partake in alcohol, anything like that, please don't drink and drive. Leave that to somebody sober. Besides that, we'll catch you guys next week. Until then, if you're not living life to the max,
not living life at all.
You know it.
Please.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.